When everything goes wrong, the rain hammered against the windows of Riley Anderson's apartment like angry fists, demanding entry. She stood in her bedroom doorway, watching water drip from the ceiling in steady streams, forming puddles that spread across her hardwood floors like dark mirrors reflecting her horror. This could not be happening. Not today. Not when she had just landed her biggest client yet at the design firm. Not when everything in her life was finally falling into place. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, and she already knew who it was before looking at the screen. Cameron Hayes had this uncanny ability to sense when she needed him, like some kind of friendship superpower he had developed over their 6 years of knowing each other. "Please tell me you are not standing in your apartment right now." His deep voice came through the speaker. Carrying that mix of concern and amusement that was so typically him, Riley looked around at the disaster surrounding her. "Define standing, Riley." "Okay. Yes, I am standing here watching my ceiling leak like a waterfall. The landlord says the roof damage is extensive. Repairs will take at least 2 months." The silence on the other end lasted exactly 3 seconds. Then Cameron said with absolute certainty, "Pack a bag. You're staying with me." The offer she could not refuse. Riley bit her lower lip, a habit from childhood that surfaced whenever she felt nervous. Moving in with Cameron, even temporarily, felt like crossing into territory they had carefully avoided for years. They were best friends. They told each other everything, but living together, that was different. "Cameron, I cannot impose on you like that." "Impose." His laugh was warm and genuine. "Riley, you are the only person who can tolerate my obsession with true crime podcasts at midnight. You actually organize my chaos instead of running from it. And your cooking is the only thing that stops me from living on takeout. If anything, I should be paying you to move in." She smiled despite herself. This was Cameron, the man who had stayed up with her through countless all-nighters during their college design projects, who had held her when her father passed away, who had celebrated every small victory in her career as if it were his own. "What about my stuff? My furniture? Bring what you need for a week. We will figure out storage for the rest." "Riley, stop overthinking this. When have I ever let you down?" Never. He had never let her down. That was the problem. Cameron Hayes was too perfect, too reliable, too everything. And somewhere along the way, Riley had started noticing things she should not notice about her best friend. Like how his eyes crinkled when he laughed. How his voice got softer when he was worried about her. How her heart did this stupid little flip whenever he walked into a room. "Kay," she heard herself say, "but I am cooking every night. Your idea of a balanced meal is pizza with vegetables on it." Pizza is a perfectly balanced food group. Cameron Hayes, you are 27 years old and run a successful architecture firm. It is time you learned that nutrition involves more than 3 food groups. That is why I need you here. So get packing. I will be there in 30 minutes to help you load your car. The first morning, Riley woke up in Cameron's guest room to the smell of coffee and the sound of running water. The loft was quiet otherwise, filled with that peaceful morning light that filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Overlooking downtown Austin, she stretched, feeling more rested than she had in weeks, despite the chaos of moving. Something about being in Cameron's space made her feel safe, protected. Home. The shower shut off down the hall. Riley decided to start breakfast as a thank you for his hospitality. She pulled on a robe, the soft pink one that Cameron always teased her about, saying it made her look like a cotton candy cloud, and padded barefoot into the kitchen. The coffee maker was already brewing. Cameron had remembered exactly how she liked it. 2 sugars, a splash of cream. She smiled, pulling eggs and vegetables from his surprisingly well-stocked refrigerator. Maybe she had been too harsh about his eating habits. She was whisking eggs when she heard footsteps behind her. "Morning," she called out cheerfully. "I am making omelets to thank you for letting me crash here." No response. Riley turned around and immediately froze. Cameron stood in the hallway fresh from the shower. He wore nothing but a towel wrapped low around his hips. Water droplets still clung to his chest, tracing paths down muscles she had never really noticed before. His dark hair was wet and pushed back from his face, and he looked completely frozen, surprised to see her as she was to see him. For a moment that felt like an eternity, they just stared at each other. Riley became acutely aware of several things at once. First, Cameron was far more built than his usual business clothes suggested. Second, he had a small scar on his left shoulder she had never noticed. Third, her heart was racing in a way that had nothing to do with surprise and everything to do with how attractive her best friend was. "I did not think you were up yet," Cameron finally said, his voice rougher than usual. "I wanted to make breakfast." Riley managed, her mouth suddenly dry. "I should have knocked or called out or something." "It is fine. It is your home too now. I just usually have the place to myself in the mornings." They were both talking too fast, filling the awkward silence with unnecessary words. Riley forced herself to look away, focusing intensely on the eggs in front of her as if they required her complete concentration. "I will just go get dressed," Cameron said, already backing toward his room. "Yes, good. Clothes are good." Did she really just say that? Riley wanted to sink through the floor. This was Cameron, her best friend. She had seen him in swim trunks before. Why was this different? But she knew why. Because this was his space, his home. Because there was an intimacy to this moment that changed something between them. Because for just a second, when their eyes met, she had seen something in his expression that looked a lot like the feeling she had been hiding for months, settling. By the time Cameron returned, fully dressed in jeans and a t-shirt that still somehow managed to look incredibly good on him, Riley had plated the omelets and set the small dining table by the windows. "This looks amazing," he said, sliding into his chair. But he was looking at her, not the food. "It is just eggs. You always downplay your talents." They ate in a silence that was not quite comfortable, but not entirely awkward either. Riley found herself hyper-aware of every movement Cameron made. The way he ate. How he gestured with his fork when he got excited talking about his latest project. The sound of his laugh when she told him about the disastrous client meeting, or she had accidentally sent concept art for a pet food company to a luxury jewelry brand. Cameron said, as they finished eating, "We should probably establish some ground rules for living together." Ground rules? Yeah, like bathroom schedules, cleaning duties, that sort of thing. Riley nodded, relieved to have something practical to focus on. "I can take mornings in the shower. You take evenings. This works for me. And I will handle dishes if you cook." "Deal." Cameron leaned back in his chair, studying her with that intense gaze that always made her feel like he could see right through her carefully maintained composure. "Riley, I want you to be comfortable here. This is your home for however long you need it." Okay, she whispered, and something in his expression softened. What Riley did not say was that being comfortable was going to be the challenge, because comfortable meant pretending her heart did not race every time he smiled. Comfortable meant ignoring how right it felt to wake up in his space. Comfortable meant lying to herself about feelings that were growing stronger every single day as Cameron cleared the dishes. Whistling softly to himself, Riley realized she had just agreed to the most dangerous thing she had ever done. Not because Cameron was unsafe, but because living with him meant she could no longer hide from the truth she'd been avoiding for so long. She was falling in love with her best friend, and she had absolutely no idea what to do about it. When jealousy strikes, 3 weeks of living with Cameron had taught Riley several important things. First, he sang terribly in the shower, but with absolute confidence. Second, he left his architectural sketches everywhere like breadcrumbs through the loft. Third, and most dangerously, he was even more wonderful up close than she had ever imagined. Every morning started the same way. Riley would wake to find fresh coffee waiting and a note from Cameron about his day. Every evening ended with them cooking together, her hands occasionally brushing as they reached for the same ingredient, sending sparks through her entire body. It was perfect. It was torture. It was everything she wanted and could not have. Riley was reviewing design mock-ups at her desk when her coworker Yennefer burst into her office with barely contained excitement. "Girl, have you seen the new creative director they hired for the marketing department?"
"No. Why?"
"Because he's gorgeous, single, and apparently asking about you." Riley looked up from her screen, confused. Asking about me? His name is Derek Chin. He saw your work on the Morrison campaign and wants to collaborate on his first project here. But between you and me, I think the collaboration he is interested in goes beyond work. Jennifer waggled her eyebrows suggestively, making Riley laugh despite herself. You are ridiculous. I am observant. He is coming by at 2 to introduce himself. Wear that blue dress that makes your eyes pop. Before Riley could protest, Jennifer had bounced out of her office, leaving her staring at her closet where the blue dress hung. She had not thought about dating in months. Had not wanted to because every man she met got compared to Cameron, and none of them ever measured up. But maybe that was the problem. Maybe she needed to move on. Maybe dating someone else would help her get over these impossible feelings for her best friend. At exactly 2 o'clock, Derek Chin appeared in her doorway. He was handsome in that polished, professional way. Tailored suit, perfect smile, confident handshake. Everything about him screamed successful and available. Riley Anderson, I have heard incredible things about your work. Thank you. Jennifer mentioned you wanted to discuss the upcoming campaign, among other things. His smile widened. I was hoping we could discuss it over dinner tomorrow night. Riley hesitated for only a moment. Sure, that sounds nice. The confession that evening, Riley came home to find Cameron in the kitchen attempting to cook. Attempting being the key word. Smoke was rising from a pan. The fire alarm was beeping. And he was waving a dish towel frantically at the she called out, trying not to laugh. Cameron spun around, looking adorably flustered. I wanted to surprise you with dinner, but apparently chicken requires more attention than I thought. Riley crossed the room, gently taking the spatula from his hand. Their fingers touched, and she felt that now familiar jolt of electricity. Let me handle this. You can set the table. As she rescued dinner, Cameron moved around the kitchen, and she could feel his eyes on her. There was a tension in the air tonight that had not been there before. Something unspoken and heavy. So, Cameron said as they sat down to eat, how is work? Good. I met the new creative director. He asked me to dinner tomorrow night. The fork in Cameron's hand froze halfway to his mouth. Dinner? Yes. To discuss a campaign we are collaborating on. Is that all it is? A work dinner? Riley looked up, surprised by the edge in his voice. Cameron was staring at his plate, jaw tight, looking nothing like his usual relaxed self. I think he might be interested in more than work. And are you interested? The question hung in the air between them. Riley set down her fork, her appetite suddenly gone. I do not know. Maybe should I not be? Cameron stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. He walked to the windows overlooking the city, his back to her, shoulders tense. Cameron, what is wrong? Nothing. That is obviously not true. He turned to face her, and the expression on his face took her breath away. His eyes were dark, intense, filled with something that looked like pain. You want to know what is wrong, Riley? What is wrong is that some guy asked you out and I want to punch him. What is wrong is that I have spent 3 weeks watching you walk around my home in your pajamas, and it is driving me insane. What is wrong is that I cannot sleep because you are just down the hall, and all I can think about is how much I want you in my bed instead. Riley stood slowly, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. Cameron, I know, he continued, running his hands through his hair in frustration. I know we are supposed to be just friends. I know I am not supposed to feel this way. But Riley, I've been in love with you since the day you spilled coffee all over my final project in college and then spent the entire night helping me recreate it. The world seemed to stop spinning. What? I am in love with you, Cameron said again, his voice breaking. I have been for 6 years, and I thought I could handle being just your friend. I thought I could be satisfied with having you in my life in any capacity. But then you moved in here, and I got to see what it would be like to have you, as more than a friend. To wake up knowing you are here, to come home to you. And Riley, I cannot do this anymore. I cannot pretend that I do not want everything with you. The kiss that changed everything. Riley crossed the room before she could think about what she was doing. Cameron watched her approach, his chest rising and falling with rapid breaths, his eyes searching her face. You love me, she whispered when she stood in front of him. Yes, since college. Yes, Cameron Hayes. You are an idiot, he blinked, clearly not expecting that response.
What?
You are an idiot because I've been in love with you two for years, and I thought you only saw me as a friend. I thought I was being ridiculous falling for someone who would never feel the same way. Hope flashed across his face, tentative and beautiful. You love me? Yes, you impossible man. I love you. I love how you leave notes with my coffee. I love how you get excited about architectural designs like other people get excited about sports. I love how you take care of everyone around you without expecting anything in return. I love your terrible singing and your chaos, and the way you look at me like I am the most important person in your world. Cameron's hands came up to frame her face, his touch gentle despite the intensity in his eyes. Riley, I was going to go on that date to try to get over you, because I thought wanting you was hopeless. It is not hopeless, Cameron murmured, his thumb brushing her cheekbone. It is the opposite of hopeless. Riley Anderson, you're the best thing that ever happened to me. Then kiss me already. He smiled, that beautiful smile that had been melting her heart for 6 years. Then he lowered his head and pressed his lips to hers. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, as if they were both afraid this might be a dream. But when Riley sighed against his mouth and wrapped her arms around his neck, something ignited between them. Cameron pulled her closer, one hand tangling in her hair, the other at her waist, and kissed her like he had been starving for this moment. Riley melted into him, feeling like every piece of her life had suddenly clicked into place. This was right. This was where she belonged. In Cameron's arms, finally admitting what they had both been feeling for so long. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Cameron rested his forehead against hers. I am canceling that dinner, Riley whispered. Definitely canceling that dinner, Cameron agreed, then kissed her again, navigating new waters the next morning. Riley woke up in Cameron's bed, wrapped in his arms. Sunlight streamed through the windows, and for a moment, she just lay there listening to his steady breathing, feeling more content than she had ever felt in her life. You are staring, Cameron murmured. His eyes still closed, but a smile playing at his lips. I am appreciating, he opened his eyes. And the love she saw there made her heart skip. Good morning, beautiful. Good morning. She traced patterns on his chest absently. Cameron, what do we tell people at work? We tell them the truth that I am completely, hopelessly in love with you, and I do not care who knows it, but we work in the same building.
People might talk.
Cameron sat up, pulling her with him. Let them talk. Riley, I've wasted 6 years being too scared to tell you how I felt. I am not wasting another day hiding this. Riley bit her lip, remembering something. My mom is going to say she knew all along. Your mom always was perceptive. Jennifer is going to scream so loud the entire office will hear. Cameron laughed.
Probably.
But Riley, are you worried about what people will think, or are you worried about us? She considered his question carefully. I'm worried about messing this up. You're my best friend. If we do this wrong, I could lose you completely. You are not going to lose me. Cameron took her hands, his expression serious. Best friends first, lovers second. That is not changing. We are just adding to what we already have, not replacing it. I promise. I promise. Riley, you're stuck with me now. Movie nights, terrible jokes, burnt dinners, all of it. Plus, I get talkies you whenever I want, which honestly makes it an even better deal for me. She laughed, feeling her worries ease. You are ridiculous. You love it. I do, she admitted. I really do. Meeting the challenge, walking into the office together that Monday morning felt like making a statement. Cameron held her hand in the Perkin garage, kissed her before they entered the building, and looked completely unbothered by the curious stares they received. Riley was more nervous, but Cameron's confidence gave her strength. They were not doing anything wrong. They were two adults in love, and they had every right to be together. Jennifer took one look at them and squealed so loudly that several people poked their heads out of their offices. I knew it. I told everyone there was something between you two. Jen, you're going to break glass with that pitch. But Jennifer was already hugging her, bouncing with excitement. Tell me everything.
When? How?
Is he a good kisser? None of your business, Riley said, blushing. He is standing right here, Cameron added, looking amused. Oh, please, as if you care. You were too happy to care about anything right now. She was right. Cameron did look ridiculously happy, his hand resting on Riley's back, his eyes never leaving her face for long. Derek appeared in the hallway, taking in the scene with raised eyebrows. He approached them with a knowing smile. I take it our dinner's cancelled. I am sorry, Riley said sincerely. I should have called you this weekend. Do not apologize. I could tell there was someone else. Just did not realize it was him. Derek extended his hand to Cameron. Take care of her. She is special. I know, Cameron said, shaking his hand. And I will. Derek walked away. Riley leaned into Cameron's side. That went better than expected. Most things do when you are honest about what you want. The rest of the day passed in a blur of work and stolen moments. Cameron would text her from his office across town, sweet messages that made her smile at her desk. During lunch, they met at their favorite food truck, and Cameron kissed her in front of everyone, making it clear that this was real and he was not hiding it. By evening, Riley felt like she was floating. Everything she had been afraid of had turned out fine. Better than fine. Perfect. Facing the doubts 2 months after that first confession, Riley found herself staring at her reflection in the bathroom mirror at 3 o'clock in the morning. She had woken from a nightmare where everything fell apart, where Cameron realized he had made a mistake, where their relationship ruined the friendship that had been the foundation of her adult life. She splashed cold water on her face, trying to calm her racing heart. This was ridiculous. Everything was perfect. Cameron was amazing. They were happy. So, why did she feel this creeping sense of dread? Hey. Cameron's voice came from the doorway, rough with sleep. You okay? Fine. Just could not sleep. He crossed the bathroom, wrapping his arms around her from behind. In the mirror, they looked good together. Right together. But Riley could not shake the anxiety gnawing at her chest. Talk to me, Cameron murmured against her hair. What if we're making a mistake? She felt him tense behind her. What? What if this does not work out? What if we are better as friends? What if we lose everything because we got greedy wanting more? Cameron turned her to face him, his hands gentle but firm on her shoulders. Where is this coming from? I do not. No. Ari felt tears prick her eyes. I just keep thinking about how perfect everything was before. What if we ruin it? Riley, look at me. He waited until she met his eyes. Do you love me? Yes, of course. Do I make you happy? Yes. Do you trust me? She paused at that question. Did she trust him with her heart? With her future? I trust you with everything, she whispered. That is what scares me. If I lose you, I lose everything. Cameron pulled her into his arms, holding her tight against his chest. She could hear his heartbeat steady and strong. You are not going to lose me, he said firmly. Riley, I have loved you for 6 years without telling you. I have watched you date other people, consoled you through breakups, pretended to be happy when you were interested in someone else. And through all of that, I never stopped being your friend. Do you really think I would let a relationship end our friendship? But what if it does? It will not, because we are not like other couples. We started as friends. We know each other inside and out. We have already seen each other at our worst and still chose to be together. Riley, we are not building a relationship from scratch. We are building on the strongest foundation that exists. Riley pulled back to look at him. In the dim bathroom light, his face was open and honest, showing her all the love and certainty she was struggling to feel. I am scared, she admitted. I know, but being scared does not mean we are wrong. It means we have something worth protecting. The breakthrough the next day. Riley called in sick to work. Not because she was physically ill, but because she needed time to think, to process, to figure out why she was suddenly so afraid of the best thing that had ever happened to her. Cameron had wanted to stay home with her, but she had insisted he go to work. She needed space to get her head straight. She was sitting on the couch wrapped in a blanket and nursing her 3rd cup of coffee when her phone rang. Her mother's name flashed on the screen. Hi, Mom. Riley Marie Anderson. Why are you home on a Tuesday morning instead of at work? How did you know I was home? A mother knows. What is wrong? And suddenly, Riley found herself pouring out everything. The fear, the doubt, the nightmare that had triggered the spiral. Her mother listened patiently, not interrupting, just letting her daughter talk. When Riley finally finished, there was a long pause. Are you done? Her mother asked. Yes, good. Now, let me tell you something. Your father and I were best friends before we fell in love. I know, Mom. Let me finish. Everyone told us we were crazy to risk our friendship. Your grandmother practically begged me not to date him because she thought it would end badly. And you know what? Those first few months were terrifying because we both knew what we had to lose. Riley sat up straighter, listening intently. But here's what I learned. Her mother continued. Love is not about avoiding risk. It is about deciding that someone is worth the risk. Your father was worth it. 30 years later, he is still my best friend and the love of my life. Cameron is worth it too, sweetheart. I have watched how he looks at you since you were in college. That boy has been yours from the beginning. What if I am not enough for him? Oh, honey, that is not the real question. The real question is, are you brave enough to accept that you are enough? Because that is what this is really about. Not whether Cameron loves you. You know he does. This is about whether you believe you deserve that love. The words hit Riley like a physical blow. Her mother was right. This was not about Cameron. It was about her own insecurities, her own fears, her own inability to believe that something this good could be hers to keep. I am being an idiot, Riley whispered. You're being human. But Riley, do not let fear steal your happiness. That man loves you. He has proven it 1,000 different ways. The only question left is whether you're going to let yourself love him back without holding part of yourself in reserve. After they hung up, Riley sat in the quiet loft, processing her mother's words. She thought about Cameron, about how he had loved her silently for years, never pressuring her, always supporting her, about how he had welcomed her into his home without hesitation, about how he looked at her like she was the most precious thing in his world. She thought about their friendship, how it had survived distance, heartbreak, success, and failure. How they had built something so strong that even the awkward transition to romance had not shaken it. And she realized her mother was right. She was holding back, protecting herself, keeping one foot out the door just in case it all fell apart. But Cameron deserved better than that. And so did she. When Cameron came home that evening, he found Riley in the kitchen cooking his favorite meal. She had changed out of her pajamas, put on the dress he loved, and was smiling for the first time all day. Hey, he said cautiously, setting down his briefcase. Feeling better? Come here, Riley said, turning off the stove. Cameron crossed to her, concern evident in his eyes. Riley took his hands, looking up at him with all the love and certainty she should have been showing all along. I am sorry, she said. I have been scared and stupid, and I have been holding back when you deserve all of me. Riley, you do not have to. Yes, I do. Cameron, I love you. Not carefully. Not with reservations. Not with one foot out the door. I love you completely, messily, forever. And I am done being afraid of that. The smile that broke across his face was like sunrise after a long night. Yeah, you are stuck with me, Hayes.
For as long as you will have me.
How about forever? Cameron asked, pulling her clothes. Would forever work for you? Forever sounds perfect. When he kissed her, it felt different, deeper, like a promise of all the tomorrows they would share. Riley kissed him back with everything she had, finally allowing herself to believe in the happiness she had been so afraid to trust. The future they built. 6 months later, Riley stood in front of their friends and family in a small garden ceremony. She wore a simple white dress, and Cameron looked devastatingly handsome in his suit. Jennifer was crying so hard she could barely hold the bouquet. And Riley's mother was beaming with an expression that clearly said, I told you so. When I met Riley in college, Cameron said during his vows, I thought she was the most talented, beautiful, frustrating person I had ever met. She spilled coffee on my final project, then stayed up all night helping me fix it. And somewhere during those hours, Watching her work with that determined look on her face, I fell in love. Riley felt tears streaming down her face, but she did not bother wiping them away. For 6 years, I loved her as a friend, because I thought that was all I could have. But Riley, you are so much more than my friend. You are my home, my partner, my everything. And I promise to spend the rest of my life proving that loving you was the best decision I ever made. When it was Riley's turn, she took a deep breath. Public speaking had never been her strong suit, but these words were too important not to say. Cameron Hayes, you have been my constant for 6 years. You have seen me at my worst and loved me anyway. You have celebrated my victories like they were your own. You have held me through every storm. And when I was too scared to take a chance on us, you loved me patiently until I was ready to love you back the way you deserved. She paused, looking into his eyes, seeing all the love and promise of their future together. You once told me that best friends first, lovers second, that we were building on the strongest foundation. You were right. Our friendship is the foundation, but our love is the home we built on top of it. And Cameron, I cannot wait to spend the rest of my life in that home with you. When they kissed as husband and wife, their friends and family erupted in cheers. Jennifer was sobbing openly. Riley's mother was hugging Cameron's parents, and Riley felt a peace settle over her that she had never known before. This was right. This was real. This was forever. The best kind of ending that night. In their newly renovated home built from Cameron's designs and decorated with Riley's artistic touch, they lay in bed together. Riley's head on his chest, his fingers running through her hair. Mrs. Hayes, Cameron murmured. I am keeping Anderson professionally. Mrs. Hayes, when we are home, he amended, and she could hear the smile in his voice. I can live with that. They lay in comfortable silence for a while, listening to the sounds of the city outside their windows, the same city where they had met, where they had built their friendship, where they had fallen in love. Cameron, Riley said softly, thank you for waiting for me, for being patient when I was scared. Kissed the top of her head. I would have waited forever, Riley. You were always worth waiting for. No more waiting now. No more waiting. He agreed. Just us. Just this. For the rest of our lives. Riley closed her eyes, feeling completely content for the first time in her life. She had spent so long being afraid of losing what they had. But in the end, love had not taken away their friendship. It had made it stronger, deeper, more beautiful. Some people searched their whole lives for what she had found with Cameron. A partner who was also a best friend. A lover who was also a confidant. A husband who was also her home. A sleep pulled her under. Wrapped in Cameron's arms, Riley smiled. Their story had not been traditional. It had taken years, fear, mistakes, and courage to get here. But every moment had been worth it, because sometimes the person you are meant to be with has been there all along. You just have to be brave enough to see them. Brave enough to risk everything. Brave enough to believe in a love that transforms friendship into forever. And Riley,